opinions on both sides of how those issues should be dealt
is it possible for a senior who is 18 to sign themselves out of school for like an emergency or for lunch?
You know, all these questions, you guys don't want to be here. All these questions about how do we not stay here? The answer to that is no as well, and that's guidance from the state. That's guidance from the state of New York. Kids just can't sign themselves out regardless of their age. I will double check on that because things do change from state regulations, but as of now, kids can't just sign themselves out.
Hello.
Better not be a question about how can I leave the building.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so you addressed this in a previous question, but it is about open campus. So why can't there be open campus for seniors?
It's really the same answer. It's a safety concern. It's an insurance issue. It's a liability issue. It was an open campus many years ago when I taught here, when I first started teaching here. It was an open campus, and there were car accidents and kids getting hit by cars and kids leaving and not coming back, and the building was not secure because there were just doors open all day long. I mean, that was a long time ago, and it's a different time, but I think even today, more than ever, we need to have a more secure building, and that's the reasoning behind it. We even tried at one point to have, it was an open campus only for seniors, but we had the same question. It was the same issues were arising. Doors were constantly being open all over the place, and kids were leaving and not coming back, and there were safety concerns on the streets with car accidents and things like that.
Right, but what if we limited who could have open campus? So what if open campus was only for seniors who performed at an above average level?
Yeah, and that's a really great idea as kind of an incentive, right? So you want to leave, you want to be able to go outside, you have to have an 85 or better average or something like that. Certainly something to consider, but the issue is still allowing kids to leave during the school day after they are under our guidance, and it still becomes a liability kind of insurance issue.
Right.
We said they're in the building, we took attendance, they're here, they're under our care, but we're letting some of them leave. I would have to really check with our legal counsel if we could even do something like that. Just let some kids out and not others.
Right.
But it's a great idea.
Well, I hope you consider it because it would push students to perform at a higher level.
Absolutely. Everything will be considered. Everything we talk about, guys, today will be considered.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Ply, I have a question.
Yep.
So you mentioned
So
in
where'd
your
that voice come from?
Hi, you mentioned in your response that the times that we're in is one of the reasons why we want to keep the campus closed and just the safety danger. My question would be, how does it work for other schools? What do you think about why in other places why we only work here?
Yeah, there are. That's great as well. I knew I was going to get that question. Other schools have different measures in place in terms of insurance and liability. And again, it would be a question for legal counsel for me as to how do other places make it work. I don't know how other places make it work. I know some schools allow just seniors. I know some schools allow everyone to have an open campus. And usually it's in part because of the numbers
What about that? Is that better?
in the building and whether or not they have the capacity to hold everybody at the same time.
What about now?
I'm not sure.
How's that?
Thank you.
Yeah. So do me a favor.
Just to add to
When-
that, we are also located
Actually
on a
speaking
very
fine, but when a student goes up, switch to that.
perhaps that this is necessarily the case, but perhaps some of those locations aren't quite as busy. If we think about some other schools in the district, like the Northeast or Northwest, that would be a bit different than right on Merrick Road. I mean, since the last couple of years, even we've had a bunch of accidents and whatnot, and that was without the campus being open. So I think our location is kind of a piece of that too.
It's a bad for a minute, but you know why?
Because so when we were posting these questions, we had about maybe
When this
100.
device is close to
I'd
this,
say 70% of them were open campus.
that's
Now,
why.
so just to give it a little bit more emphasis,
Like for instance, if
I
we did
feel
the
as
youth
though
window, this would
kids
be the
are
halftime
taking
show
it upon themselves
next to you.
kind of having an open
That
campus
would be
anyways
camera.
by sneaking out. And I know
Yeah, for some
I know
reason we don't
teachers
have
could
that
tweak
camera
this
link
somehow,
system
because
yet.
sometimes kids
So
are
right
missing,
now it's
so
still
like,
on that
yeah.
hotspot. So people are when they
And
open their phone,
honestly,
what
that
happens
could
is
I see that
they
more
open their
effectively
phones and they try to
open campus, where we know where they're going for how long, etc., than
they
kids
sleep in the
just
studio, so they
opening
keep hitting it. So
the
it's a
many
pain.
doors we have because of fire
So they
safety.
interference because people don't
just
know what
leaving,
this
and
is. They
maybe
try to
that-
connect to it, so it causes interference.
And again, listen, I'm never going to say, I would never say no. I said no several times already, but I will never say no, that's the way it is, that's the way it's always going to be. You know, these are certainly always issues that can be explored. But I will never just say, no, that's the way it is, the way it always will be, end of story. So certainly these things can all be explored, and you guys have some really good insight here.
Hello.
Good morning.
Before I read this question, I have a question of my own. You mentioned that we live on the school is on a busy intersection. Why is it that we don't have a crossing guard at the light?
That's not a school decision. So that crossing guard would be provided by Amityville Village. They are contracted by Amityville Village. So that comes up every year. It used to come up when I was at the middle school. You know, why don't we have crossing guards on both corners instead of one? And that's not a decision that can be made by the school district. We can request help. We can request a guard. We could request traffic lights. We could request them to, you know, not make that traffic light 8 minutes long. But it's not. We have no control over that. That's nothing we can control. But that is something, however, that you can control by writing letters to the village, by saying it's a safety concern. Because when I write letters, it's just one person. And while I'm speaking on behalf of everyone, you know, if they got 200 letters from students saying, we need a crossing guard, I can probably, maybe not guarantee, I suspect they would act on it. So what happens in the past when I've requested crossing guards, they will come for a few days during different the times that I request a guard, and they will almost do like surveillance on that area, and they will see how many cars are passing, how many kids are passing, and they will assess whether or not a crossing guard is necessary. So I could tell you that when I was at the middle school, we did the same thing up there, and we had kids were hit by cars on 2 occasions over a 2-week period, a total of 6 kids. So it was a group of 3 kids who got hit by a car one night, and then I think it was a group of 3 or maybe 2 other accidents. And we argued, like, clearly kids getting hit by cars, we would need a crossing guard. So the middle school is governed by Suffolk County, and they came and they did this assessment, and they said they didn't think a crossing guard was necessary. So that's the process of how it works. They would send somebody, they would do an assessment, and they would see if they actually needed a crossing guard. But apparently 6 kids getting hit by cars in 2 weeks is not enough for a crossing guard at one time.
Sabitha, just to address that, last year when I was doing council president, I met with the principal. We spoke about this. Basically, what the village and Suffolk County said that it was the village's issue because this is their jurisdiction. But they said that in order to have a crossing guard, it has to be a light. Right. But getting a light was a battle, like for everybody, from the superintendent, the board, the students, everybody. We went the village board and everything. So we have the light now. So a crossing guard.
But we don't like the light because it's like 8 minutes long.
Yeah, exactly.
This question doesn't have an issue. Can we allow food delivery, DoorDash, Grubhub, during lunch because you guys don't allow?
That's just a straight up no, I guess. I'm just criticizing myself all over the place. You know, the answer is it's no. It's no, and I'm going to stay steadfast on that one. Simply because we can't have the door opening all day long. You know, we have security at the door to monitor parents coming in for safety reasons, and they're not there to let food come in and out. You know, if your parents want to drop off lunch, that's fine, but food deliveries not happening. Sorry. You're welcome.
Okay, guys, we're at 6 and 7.
Captain Madrano says that students are overwhelmingly concerned with the quality and the taste of the lunch in the cafeterias. Would you guys like to make a comment on that?
Yeah, so I would argue that you and probably every other school on the planet says the same thing. They're not farm to table, they're not getting the best quality stuff out there. It's federally regulated, so we follow our guidelines, and they get as fresh as they can get. They cook it to what they're supposed to cook it at. They serve the amount they're supposed to serve out. It's something that the school itself can't really control. They can control somewhat of the variety, but not so much the quality. The paninis are pretty good, though, gotta admit. Come on.
Is there a way to modify the amount that high school students are getting, because high school students need more nutrition than, say, an elementary school student?
Absolutely, and the guidelines are by age group. So I don't know exactly what they are, but it's about calorie intake by age and by elementary, middle, and high school level. And it's really not something that we can control. It's a federal and state guideline. It says, students are supposed to get X amount of ounces of this each day, X amount of calories each day, and that's really it. We work pretty closely with our food service providers to make sure the quality is better. And I know they've been adding more and more variety each year. So we're really working on that to make it better. But I know it's not the greatest. But I eat in there all the time. Yeah. I mean, I'd rather eat something else probably if I had a choice. But I eat the veggie paninis. I'm good.
The thing is that I don't think necessarily you or any other staff member has to deal with the line of getting wraps. That's like a really big thing, and especially next year when there's a whole new class coming into the building. I believe the cafeteria is getting increased, like in size.
Yeah.
But how is the wrap issue? Because students are having a trouble where they can't get their wraps in time to go to the cafeteria, so they're literally spending their whole lunch standing there.
Yeah. So I believe they kind of put in place a number system in there. I think that's working a little bit better. But I've addressed it already for next year. What we're going to do, I've ordered more panini machines. And more cafeteria workers to staff the lines and to get the lines moving along. But there'll be more panini machines in the budget.
Follow-up questions are allowed by the person asking.
Ashuman asks, what is being done to improve water fountains within the school?
I didn't know there was anything wrong with the water fountains.
The thing is, there's only one operational water fountain that's actually that's an actual quality water fountain that has a filter in it.
That's the one in the cafeteria?
Yes, that's the one in the cafeteria. If you go to any SUNY or CUNY school, they all have adapted to the ones. So they're like in every building, the multiple in each building. Now, we only have one, and right now there's a really big restriction on the access of the cafeteria when you're late, so you have to have a pass to come in. Now, students can't necessarily go get water without being, I don't want to say antagonized, but basically, like it's a very assertive front that you go and it's not very the most welcoming because students aren't really supposed to be coming into the cafeteria when they're not supposed to. So just having more access to water. I know staff has access to water in the guidance office and the main office, I believe, right? You guys have your own water fountains or tanks?
Water bottle.
Yeah, oh, okay. Yeah, we have that, and that's all we have. So maybe just increasing it. Like I know in December, we went and that filter, there's different lights of it. It was red for like maybe 2 weeks. Yeah. And then when we finally came back, someone had replaced it.
Yeah, so as soon as I found out that the water coolers had to be, fixed because the light was red, I believe it was taken care of pretty much right away. One of the things with buying those water fountains and those filtration systems, I mean, it's great, and I think that's pretty much all we're going to have here moving forward for next year because they've been ordered for the new wing and a couple for the existing building. One of the things while, we are under construction, we're making these big purchases, we had to kind of, scale back a little bit on the old side of the building until we know exactly what we're doing on the new side of the building and then make those purchases. So this year there aren't any plans to install any more water fountains, but next year there should be more. And I'm sorry for the seniors that aren't going to be here, but you could come back and use those water fountains if you want.
So in the new segment of the building, there will be water fountains, and they'll be like the better water fountains, or
Yeah, the water fountains that we're going to put in are going to be the new kind with the
Okay.
filtration systems.
Yeah, I had a question actually about the old side of the building. So what are you gonna do? You're gonna refurbish everything? Or you gonna
Put new ones in. Oh, refurbish everything. No, so the science classes that are the existing science classes, those are going to be completely refurbished, and they're going to be brand new classrooms. We're getting furniture. We're not refurbishing the entire building because it's not cost effective to do it all at once. So many of the old classrooms will have new furniture. The old science classrooms will be refurbished, brand new classrooms. And then, of course, the new wing, they're going to be brand new classrooms.
Right, we're at 9 and we're at 8 and 9. So 8 and 9.
Would clubs be able to do their own separate music, separate from school?
No. That's another thing we don't have any control over. You know, I mean, actually the answer is yes, you can do all the fundraising you want. But money is governed by a process, and we have auditors in the district weekly making sure that we're selling correctly, we're buying correctly, we're depositing correctly, our savings are correct. So it's kind of a complicated question. Can you go out and raise money on your own and then donate it to a club is essentially what you're asking, right? So the answer is kind of yes and no. If that makes sense, it doesn't make sense. It can't be both. So the answer is yes. If you want to do fundraising and then donate it to a club, but there's a process to accept donations. The answer is no if there's no accountability of what you're doing with that money, and you're getting yourself in a lot of trouble. If you're going around saying, I'm collecting money, you want to give a donation to whatever club it is, and then the club doesn't get the money, you'll find yourself, not in jail, but you'll find yourself in trouble. I hope that's clear, guys. It's governed by somebody else. It's not the school district government.
The enrollment of extracurricular activities is declining, and you see the same students involved in all clubs. How can you branch off or get new ideas to get more people to join, the summit basically?
So I don't know if it's declining. I haven't seen the data that says that there are less kids involved in clubs or sports or anything like that. If it is, we would certainly address it. One of the things that we do is we ask kids, well, what do you want to do? If you don't have something here that you want here, propose it. Do a club proposal. You can try to get a club up and running. That what you just mentioned is in every single high school on Long Island, right? It's the same 50, 60, 100 kids that are in every club. And they're the leaders. Right? There are two kinds of people in this world. Right? People who do it, people who don't. And that's the way it is.
A couple of years ago, we actually had a extracurricular fair, and that might be something to think about bringing back. It was during lunch periods. So students who were interested in joining activities during their lunch period could go out. Each club had a table that they could give out information about their club, because I think in some cases maybe students don't know what a club is, or they don't have, for example, maybe they don't know who, for example, Mr. McGowan is, so they can't join WACPAC because they don't know when or where. Although, of course, there's announcements and whatnot, but maybe we could think about bringing something like that back, where towards the beginning of the school year next year even, all of the students could be made aware of what the clubs are. Maybe they could talk to, we had student representatives from each of the clubs, so they could talk from a student's perspective, like, hey, do you like this club? What kinds of things do you do in it? So that might be something worthwhile bringing back based on what you're saying.
We talked about that at the beginning of the year. I don't remember who I met with. It might have been with Jeffrey or Mr. Grice. We talked about kind of doing a club fair, maybe having it in the courtyard. And to be quite honest, I don't remember what happened with that conversation. I know we talked about it, but it just, a zillion other things got in the way, and we just never got to it. But definitely something we want to do next year to have that kind of club fair, so that students know what's going on.
Just to just give another perspective on it. For a lot of you, you have one thing, but there are some, like maybe like 4 or 5 of you who have a very long list that I had to make the font smaller because you have 7 positions, 5 vice president, 2 president, and some people aren't here. And I'm one of those people. But I feel like if the opportunity is there to join the clubs, especially for I know that about student council and class advisory. We're kind of the ones that need to fundraise the most, have the most outreach towards each class and things like that. You guys want to talk about like the struggle of like maybe finding people to bake or things like that? Like I could speak a million years for that. So. Well,
I know. All right. Well, I know a lot of students have a lot of complaints, and when it's time to step up and come to a meeting and tell their complaints to like our class advisor, or say they're instead of posting on social media or talking about it in the hallways behind the cabinet's back, students don't take the right opportunity to voice their opinion. I know, speaking for our class, we've had the same, like 4 or 5 bakers, one is sitting right there. And then there's students that I know bake for themselves and profit the money, then lie and say, oh no, we're doing it for the class. So that's one of the struggles that we face.
And guys, that's a microcosm of this country, probably a microcosm of the world, right? And I started, when I talked about that, people who do things and people who don't. So you're going to have people who are going to complain, and you're going to see it. You're going to see it when you guys are off to college. You're going to see it when you're off on your careers. You're going to be working with people who just complain. And they stay in that position forever. They don't do anything about it, and they just become miserable people. You're not those people. You get those people, right? So that is, what you're talking about. That's a microcosm of society, unfortunately.
In addition to the original question we asked originally, your response was that you had students who wanted to contribute ideas. However, earlier this year when I spoke to a staff member about trying to start a club, unofficially they told me it wasn't trying to get through the bureaucracy to actually try to make one. What would you say, how could you adjust the policy so we could actually start clubs?
Can you just repeat the question?
Yeah. You said that you want students to advocate for themselves to create clubs. Earlier this year, when I was talking to a staff member about trying to create a club, they said it was not worth the bureaucracy of trying to get it started. Because people have tried and failed numerous times in recent years. So how could you adjust the policy to make it more easy and straightforward for students to start a petition to start a club?
The person who said it's a bureaucracy is not worth it made an excuse, and I don't know who that person is. There are people who get things done, people who don't. That person clearly did not get it done. It's really not that hard. It's a club proposal, you write it up, you get an advisor, I sign off on it, I present it, and it happens. It happens every year. And there's been a lot of clubs. This is my 6th year as a principal in Amityville, and we have established a multitude of clubs over the last 6 years that students proposed. So don't listen to excuses. Make it happen. Yeah, I mean, I think this year alone, we've got, over the last couple of years, the Whack Pack and the Warrior Nation, robotics is brand new, broadcasting club is relatively new. So just many clubs. You're welcome.
We're at 10 and 11. 11 can.
How does our school district plan to promote STEM career options for younger students? Are there new STEM programs or initiatives in the works?
That's a really, really, really great question. Did you say particularly for what, young women? Was that what you said?
For students.
For all students in general, okay. It's a great question, and that's a question that is being asked in districts all over Long Island, and Amityville is no different than anywhere else. So money is set aside each year for STEM, for research, and we've opened up science research classes. Next year, we are looking to, as we have an entirely new science and math wing, we're looking to put what's called, it's an Aqua Grow. We're looking to do a lot of STEM stuff, and I don't want to give you the wrong information. But some of the new science classes will be dedicated to STEM. So we're doing our best to address those things. You're welcome.
I have a question about science research.
Yep.
You specifically mentioned science research in our district. I feel, I was heavily involved in science research last year with Ms. Charles, and I feel after her absence, there's been like a void that hasn't really been filled by anyone in the science research department. And how do you think we could go, even like getting a class at the high school for science research, do you think that could be possible? That isn't the 3-year commitment of the college class. I forgot the name, but the SUNY Albany science research course.
Just repeat your question.
I feel that as of last year when Ms. Charles left in middle school, there's been a void in the science research department at the high school, including the fact that there's not a science research class apart from the SUNY Albany course. That's a 3-year commitment. Do you think we could add, even not specifically a class, just opportunities for enrollment in scientific symposiums and competitions, just like Ms. Charles did when she was here?
Good, great question. So how are we filling that void? So currently, what we do is to try to fill any position, we're currently looking to hire science teachers with experience, with lab experience, so that we can
cutting in and out
program. Not always easy finding those folks out there, but we look really hard, and that's on the agenda now to hire somebody, or if not, we have to find somebody to train from within who can take over the program and make it as rigorous as it was.
Thank you.
Is it cutting right now?
It's like cutting in and out.
Also, AP research, although under, I guess you could say, the English department, is a course where students could research anything that interests them. So that might be an option too if you have like a strong interest in science, to take that course and take the science route for that as well.
Yeah, that is definitely like an option. I guess just the difference is like, I guess just the, I know it's like College Board and like AP, but just the rigor that is involved in like training. We like trained like after school every day, and it was more personal because there was only a few of us that were really passionate about the subject. There were only like 5 of us last year who really went to these competitions in my grade, and it's just the rigor of being personally committed is, I guess, the difference that's missing in some of these classes we have now.
Also with the science research that we did with Ms. Charles, it wasn't just the students who were very, very involved, but it was also the coordinator, Ms. Charles. She put everything together, and like sometimes she gave us a question and she like enforced like go sometimes find it on your own. If you can't find it, ask somebody for help. And if you do that in like regular AP, they also have other people doing other things, but in that program you were more of doing everything as a group, and like everybody shared information and you got more done. so there was more to present.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely it was a great program, and we're doing our best to bolster it up and make it more rigorous again.
Moreover, about the like the outside connection, I want to mention during the science research class with Ms. Charles, we got to meet other science researchers outside of the district, mainly Andrew Michelson, who is a professor, and he started his own biotechnology company. I worked with the project. Did you too, Kenise? The 3D one? Me and Kenise both worked on a project with him. It was just a whole new level of intensity because this was his career, and we got to experience what real work environment was with him. I think that's something irreplaceable.
Yep. Agreed.
I actually did have one more.
Are we still on science? I thought we were going to do one follow-up to each question. So I think this is like question number 6 about science research.
All right. We can go at 11 and 12.
Gabriel McGinnis asks, is it possible to upgrade illustration and animation software because current software is slow and inefficient?
Yes, that's an easy one. Yes, it's possible. Anything is possible. So, of course, anything we buy, there's a process to buying it. And the tech teacher, Mr. Semino, has submitted to me what kind of software he needs, and we're in a process of getting whatever we need.
Would it be possible to update the software, computers within the classrooms?
Yes. Same answer.
See, the issue is I feel like it's been developing where we're getting Chromebooks and things like that. And Chromebook, the software really isn't like that old, so it doesn't really matter. But I'm sure like teachers can understand the struggle of like maybe showing a PowerPoint and then you get a thing about saying how administrator needs to like unlock the computer, or that you're not running a genuine copy of Windows. Like it happens continuously on the computers, and they're kind of old. You said that they're running Windows XP, right, or 7, one of those, and those are like really old because we're like on Windows like 10, right, or 11.
Yeah, so we've got to update, and that's all. We budget for that stuff. There's a process, and we've got to update it. We've got to be as up to date as possible.
All right, 13 and 14.
Hello. Hi. When will the charging stations for Chromebooks be installed, and when will they be operational?
We're in the process of getting them installed. I actually spoke with the tech department, custodial department yesterday, and I think one of the issues has been with the construction going on and the windows, and people have to move everything away from the windows, trying to find spaces, because they're pretty big, the charging stations, trying to find the space in each classroom. So what we did was we asked teachers, we put a list out there, we asked teachers to tell us where they wanted exactly, and then we have our custodial staff and our tech team working together to get those charging stations there, because they are a critical component for you guys to keep your Chromebooks and whatnot charged up. So we're in the process of getting it. Unfortunately, it's a slow process with the other construction going on, but this week they're up and running. Some should be up and running.
Thank you.
Thank
14,
you.
15.
Hello.
Hi.
How can E&L students be further assisted by their E&L teachers that don't necessarily speak their language?
That's a great question for an E&L teacher.
Hi. Thank you so much for asking that question, because I think it's really something that needs to be addressed. Right now we have an E&L program, not a bilingual program. So the properties of E&L is that you have students from different backgrounds, different countries, everyone in the same room, and I speak Spanish, but I don't necessarily use Spanish in my classroom. So what we do is a matter of scaffolding. We do vocabulary, we do a lot of pictures, a lot of acting out. So properties that can be assigned to students from any background. We have students who speak Creole. In the past, we've had students who speak Chinese, Arabic, Urdu. So it's really a process of using English to further the education, not the home language.
Thank you.
Thank you.
How's it going today?
So we're gonna just, as you guys come up, because not everybody up here knows everybody. I know you all. If you could just say your name and what your position is. I know 10 of you went already. Sorry, guys, but I know who you all are.
Well, I'm Brian Canales. I am co-president of Key Club, the president of the Triumph Music Honor Society, and the varsity baseball captain.
And waiting to hear from 6 Ivy League colleges.
Correct. My question ties into a question I was just asked. I'm not sure what the new plan is in terms of staffing and faculty for the new department and new building that's being added next year and implemented. And in regards to E&L students, obviously next year there's going to be a new wave of E&L kids that will be coming into the building. And with the size of the school doubling, how will you be able to accommodate those exact kids if all the teachers aren't necessarily bilingual student teachers that will be able to show them the concepts and explain the concepts that they may not be able to understand with English not being their first language?
So I think it's about 30% E&L. Is that where we're at now? 30% of our students are English language learners. And as far as the kids who are coming up from the middle school, they're coming up with their teachers. So, you know, we're bringing about 10 teachers up from the middle school as well to accommodate all the kids. So the pattern stays the same. So it's not like we have to hire new people. We're just getting them from somewhere else. But we are always on the hunt for new, better E&L teachers because they're hard to come by. It's not an easy profession, but always looking out to hire new ones.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I think Brian's question brings up an important thought, is that we are discussing a lot about the 10% of people who need the most help and 10% of people who want to be the most challenged. So with the 19 AP classes and the E&L programs, but I guess that leaves the middle, which is the majority of people who don't get the special attention that everyone else does, where they might need it. There are certain programs like, for example, AVID, where they teach strategies to people who are just in the middle, because that is the majority of people. Not everyone is going to be taking 19 AP classes. Not everyone's going to need E&L help, but the majority may need some like note-taking help. And what are we doing for the majority of students who are just in that middle where they might not feel tailored to by the district?
Again, great question, and that is a question that comes up, I would imagine, in any student forum and any school. And what we see in most public schools is student population is a bell curve like that, right? So you've got students here on the bottom who need the most help, and then it kind of goes up like this, and everybody's in the middle here, and then you've got the 10% at the top who these guys, you know, they're going to do it no matter what, and everything comes pretty easy for them. So we try to look at students individually. We try to program based on student needs, and it changes from year to year. And again, we look at region scores, we look at quarterly averages, and we try to meet the needs of students looking at it that way. It's not a perfect system, but we do our best to meet the needs of everybody.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
16 and 17. So guys, remember your name, the position you are representing.
My name is Jason Washington. I am the president of the Interact Club, and I have a quick question before I ask this question. It's in regards to technology. They had said that it needs to be updated, but it needs to be updated, but the computers are so old that it can't be updated anymore. Regardless of if you give them the administration access or whatever, it can't be updated anymore. It would have to replace the computers, and not only with the computers in regards to technology, but the lighting. I know we had an issue with that during the Black History Show, like we couldn't put the tree lights on. Heating in the school, you know, it was cold out. I mean, it's not as a necessity now because we're going into spring, but yeah, heating is a big problem in the school because me personally am anemic, and whenever I came in here, I was freezing. Yeah. And this question is, what efforts are being made to hire more racial diverse faculty?
Excellent question. So, and that question comes up all over the country. You know, currently, On Long Island, about 7% of the teachers on Long Island are considered minority. Amityville is 8%, so it's a little bit above average from the rest of Long Island. Nationally, less than 2% of teachers nationally, are black males. So we know there's a problem everywhere. I think it's 45% of the districts on Long Island do not have one minority faculty member, not one. 45% of the districts on Long Island. One of the things about Long Island is historically we are the most segregated area of the country still, by neighborhood and by school district. So one of the things that Amityville is doing to try to diversify the ranks is that last year we were the first district to have our very own diversity fair. Diversity hiring fairs occur throughout Long Island, and they are district-wide. So they'll be put together by BOCES, let's say. BOCES is a consortium of different school districts. Amityville was the first school district last year to actually have its own diversity fair to try to attract diverse candidates. We opened up the St. Joe's class this year for teaching, to try to get students from Amityville to take some education classes to come back and teach here. So it's a really, really important question, Jason. And again, it plagues Long Island, it plagues the entire country. So, we try to address it the best we can in Amityville, but we are, believe it or not, above average than the rest of the schools on Long Island when it comes to diverse ranks. And in the last 5 years, the percentage of diverse teachers here has doubled. So we're working towards it. But great question, thank you.
A little bit more on that. Actually, today, a lot of the, we're missing some people because they are on a junior achievement trip. So they're actually teaching right now. So there's like a page of like three pages of names of lists of a lot of women and people of color students that are actually right now teaching younger students in the district. But this is a topic that's raised a lot, especially during board meetings. And what tends to happen is that when they count minorities, they also count women. Now, women are actually a majority in the education field. So, but racially, I'm sure as you can all tell that we are having the whole country is having a very big problem with it not being able to represent its students properly. So with that, yeah, they opened that St. Joseph's class where they're getting credits for teaching. It's a psychology of education, and then another class. It's really important, and that's why we kind of made this summit, because we know that sometimes students can't really relate to the people leading them, board members, principals, superintendents, whoever, teachers, because they can't get down to their level in terms of where we are in the world, because Amityville is not the richest, and also where, like Mr. Pillai said, we are the most racially divided place in the United States.
The research supports that the two most important factors in student success is what's being taught, the curriculum, and how that curriculum is being delivered. And right up there with what's being taught and how it's being taught is how people build relationships with kids. So there's a ton of research out there about, is it better that students sit in classrooms with people who look like them? And, there's depending on which periodical you read, you'll find a different argument. But, I'm confident, we have some really, really, really fantastic teachers here, regardless of what they look like. And, I think they do a really fine job. But we try hard to diversify the ranks. I think we're probably trying harder than any other district on Long Island. And we do know that each year we're building the ranks a little bit more. But, I think our teachers here are doing a pretty fantastic job.
So I'm a beneficiary of last year's diversity fair. So I was super grateful for having the opportunity to come here. But remember too that there's a whole lot of other staff here that are not teachers that also are here to help and here to represent, that you might be able to find common ground with as well. So while you might not find it in the classroom, there are a ton of other people in this building that also provide support. So.
Bringing up again about like how you said the segregation on Long Island. I live south of Merrick Road, and every day I see maybe 3 people south Merrick Road that I see that my neighbors who go to this school, yet I see dozens of people getting picked up by private school buses. So what can we do to incentivize Amityville public school district of those people who will not send their kids here?
Yeah, so, we know there's a large population of students who live within the Amityville School District that do not go to Amityville schools. And that's really a personal choice for those families. And, those personal choices vary as to why they want to send their kids to private schools. So, what is the Amityville School District doing to try to get those students here? Well, we just built a $71 million extension. We're upgrading our technology. We've brought in 19 advanced placement programs. We brought in college programs from Syracuse University, Farmingdale University, Syracuse University, probably missing 1 or 2. So we're just trying to bolster our curriculum. We're trying to bolster our technology. We're trying to bolster our school grounds. And added, we're doubling the size of the school to try to attract more families here. But, each year I tour the buildings with families whose children have either been in private school or are considering, either leaving Amityville to go to private school and try to have those conversations. But, again, people send their kids to private school for a myriad of reasons. Some because they want, religious education and, for whatever other reasons.
You mentioned like the steps you're taking to make the school more incentivized, the new wing, etc. But you might not have the answer to this, but have you seen that correlate to an increase in enrollment? Or if it doesn't, would you be open to holding like a open house to new families, not necessarily at Northeast for like new families in the district, but at the high school level or middle school level for people who might consider coming here instead of private school?
So that your question is, have we seen an increase in enrollment from private school to here?
Yes.
I'm not sure. I think it's flat. I don't know for sure, but I could certainly get that information.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Carlos Hernandez, and I'm vice president of the Robotics Club and treasurer of student council. So the question that I have here is written by myself, but basically it's how will the issue of the restrictions on Chromebook functions that hinder classwork productivity be addressed?
I would need to know what the hindrances are. I've heard we don't get Disney, but we get Netflix. What's up with that?
It's more like how offline how there's an extension to the Chromebooks with Google Docs and stuff like that, and there's a function that allows you to use the Google Docs offline. However, for some reason, and I'm just using this one as an example since I've had firsthand experience with this, but for some reason the option to use offline editing is disabled by the administrator, and so I can't work on any of my assignments outside of school that are online.
So this is the first time I'm hearing of this, something like offline editing. No one's brought it to my attention. I'll see do and why it's turned off. I don't know the reasoning behind it, and I didn't know it was happening. So I'll take a look.
The extensions are one thing about them being blocked. Another important aspect is the restrictions of internet usage on the Chromebooks. I'm sure everyone here can say they love Netflix. I love Netflix, but it's a problem that I can watch Netflix but not research gun violence.
Agreed.
Thank you.
Was there a question attached to that? I didn't.
Well, I guess regarding the restrictions, where like, how could we revise our restrictions to web usage to be more accommodating for research aspects like that, especially in this day and age, where you said earlier, where it's becoming more and more important for us to become advocates for ourselves. It's hard to. How can you help us advocate by changing the regulations on the Chromebooks to allow for us to look at more academic information?
Yeah, so, I would need to know what restrictions need to be lifted, what do you guys want, put a list together and say, I tried to go here and I couldn't, why is that happening? So I need to know about it, and we'll make it happen. We don't, most schools who have Chromebooks, who have, well, everybody's got Wi-Fi, but most places restrict things like YouTube, and myself, Dr. Kelly, we were very clear that we were not going, and I know at times it has been restricted, but it's accidental when that does happen. But Dr. Kelly, myself, my team, we are proponents of student voice, and we trust that you're going to use your stuff appropriately. And there were a lot of people who were not supportive of that. And there were a lot of people who thought, well, if we open, we have YouTube on there, that's all they're going to be doing. Hopefully that's not happening. I know it happens sometimes. But we trust that kids are going to do the right thing, and we did not want to censor students, and we really haven't. There's a whole filtering system that I can't really speak to. I'm not that familiar with. But if there's stuff that you can't get to and you need to get to for educational purposes, I need to know about it, and we'll fix that. But we've really opened up the floodgates, and we really don't want to censor kids. And you've proven that you are responsible, and you've proven that you're doing the right things with the Chromebooks and everything else. So, we want to limit those restrictions.
Okay, I have another. Well, it's a question that's unrelated to this, but it's one that I feel like needs to be answered. Well, not needs to be answered, but I want to.
You would like an answer.
Yeah, I would like an answer for.
I'll do my best.
All right. So you've mentioned earlier how the reason why you won't allow for open campus is because of your policies about how that you're responsible for all the students and all that stuff. So could you explain how your policies on the students after school are different from your policies on the students during school?
They're not, and this sounds cold and callous here, but they're not our responsibility after school. Trust me, I care what happens to everyone after school. If someone gets hit by a car at 5 o'clock at night, I'm not going to go, well, I don't care, it's 5 o'clock at night, they got hit by a car. That's not going to be my attitude at all. But from a legal standpoint, we're not responsible for what happens after school.
Mm.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, and also one more thing. So it's an issue that I've been like myself, and it's about the amount of time that you get from in between classes, and the issue here is that like I've experienced this last year, right? Where I had one class that's on the second floor on the that side of the school building. Yeah. And then the next period, I had another class at the portables right there. So because of that, sometimes did not have enough time to get from that class to the other class in time.
Walk faster. No, just kidding, just kidding.
Yeah.
So the reason why we have 3 minutes between classes, there's a New York State regulation with minutes that students have to be in class, and the way our schedule works is we have to fit all that in. Next year there will be 4 minutes between periods. Granted, the size of the building is going to be double, and we're hoping that 4 minutes will be enough to get to you from class to class. But that's the reasoning behind it. It's not just an arbitrary decision. Let's give the kids 3 minutes.
Mm. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, guys, so the most exciting part now is lunch. Now, we're going to let the panelists go first because some of them need to leave. Unfortunately, we're going to lose Ms. Carlucci and Mr. Playa. So we're gonna take a break.
Can we run through the questions? Because I'd rather be part of the questions than be part of lunch. Is that okay? Thank you. Because I have to go, but I really want to hear what you have to say. Cold food? Isn't it heat? They're like in those like heat bags back there, aren't
Okay.
they?
All right. Can someone do me a favor and check the food, make sure it's not cold? All right. All right. So I guess we'll continue. So we're gonna go with 18,
5 minutes.
19.
Hello, my name is Kayla Fuller, and I'm the Vice President of the GSA. And the question we have is, can we please be allowed to wear hats and hoods in school?
No. You know, this is, again, this is a question that comes up in every school all over the place, and why, and you know, why can't we just do it? First, if it's a historical matter, wearing, you know, covering your head in public places, and certainly it's a safety issue. You know, we want to be able to see everybody from all angles, just in case we have to.
The issue on identifiability, is that we understand maybe not in the halls, but in the classrooms there's no cameras. So I know maybe not a hood where you could like cover yourself, but like even like just like a do-rag or like a hat in general, like that's not gonna disguise you, especially in a classroom where I believe like we're like 20 to 1 or like 17, whatever we are to the ratio. The teachers know you, so even if like maybe like I'm wearing a hat, I'm pretty sure Mr. Wright's gonna be able to tell that I'm me regardless of if I'm wearing a hood or not.
Yeah, you know, for as far as from a historic perspective, and I know, you know, some things in history aren't so great, and we say, well, that happened for a long time too, and that wasn't okay. But it's really about a respect issue and being in front of the classroom and time and a place, and not having your head covered while you're in the classroom. That's really part of the issue.
Hello. I know I'm not supposed to do a follow-up question to this because this wasn't my question, but recently Miss Hutchinson got on my case for wearing a head wrap, and that's completely different to a do-rag and a hat. So what are the restrictions of head wraps?
So we ask, like, just come and see, rather than, you know, get into it with somebody, just come and see us, give us a reason why you got to have it, and we're often very receptive, and you get a pass for the day and whatnot if you got to. Boys don't see it that way, by the way. Boys look at it as, if a girl gets to wear that, why can't I wear my hat?
Right.
So we just ask that you come to us, and we're usually very receptive, and we sometimes allow it, sometimes we don't, depending on the circumstance.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, my name is Kelly Lira. I am the president of the Latino Club. The question is, can the school day begin later? The early hours are a detriment to our learning and development as adolescents.
Great question, right? And the research supports that the school day should start later for high school kids for a myriad of reasons, that you need more sleep, that the little kids wake up early, they don't need as much sleep. So the answer is yes. The simple answer is yes. Can the school day be later? Yes, it can be. However, it probably isn't going to be. And one of the reasons is because the district, the busing runs on a bus loop, right? So because we are the southernmost school in the district, it starts here. These buses, as soon as they drop you guys off, they go and they pick up the Park Avenue kids, and then they run, and then they drop those kids off, and they run, and they pick up the middle school kids, then they drop them off, then they go pick up the Northwest kids, and they drop them off, then they go pick up the Northeast kids, and they drop them off. So it's got to start on one end of the district, and we work with transportation to try to figure that out. So great question. I'm a huge proponent of starting later, but I just don't think it's feasible at this time.
And this is a personal question. Many fluent students are put into English and based classes. However, they learn and focus more on the literature behind, and then and not basic English like the pronunciation and like grammar. So would you consider inputting a basic English class involving grammar and pronunciation by itself?
Yeah, that's a great question as well. Our classes are based on guidelines from New York State, and as far as standards and what standards students have to be exposed to. And do we have a class dedicated solely to grammar? No, because we look at it as a more of a holistic approach, and we'll hopefully get the grammar with all the other things that are involved. But we follow the guidelines of New York State. We could be, an extra, an elective, but I don't know how many kids are going to sign up for, grammar, basic grammar. But it's a thought. It's a thought.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Can we go? You need it 7 period. Do you want to continue or it's 7 period?
Yeah. So, guys, I have to run. I am sorry. I got double booked. I've got to get in to see somebody. I just want to say that your questions are really, really, really incredible. And I know I said no quite a few times, but I love to hear the way you think. I love your concerns. They are valid. They are important, and we are listening, and we want to try to do what you're asking for. And don't let today be the end of it. If you have questions, you have ideas, certainly if you have solutions, write them down. It happens to me all the time. 2 o'clock in the morning, I wake up and I got to write something down because I thought I had a great idea. So don't let this stop today. Unfortunately, I do have to run. But I can't stress enough how proud I am of all of you, and Jeffrey over there for having this great idea and putting it together. I wasn't so sure he was going to pull it off, but only because he's so busy and he's doing a zillion different things, and I'm like, how's he going to fit this on his schedule? So kudos to you there, Mr. Reyes. You did a really, really fantastic job. And again, guys, I really appreciate the questions. I appreciate the time you've taken out of your day. I've got to run. Enjoy lunch, Chick-fil-A, but I got to get out of here. I'm so sorry. And again, thank you very much.
All right, guys. So what we're going to do, we're going to let the panelists first, and then we can form a line. They also gave me some coupons for some free stuff for Chick-fil-A, so we're going to do that. All right, so if you guys just want to start forming a line, it's right over there, the right corner, or your left, my left. Here you go. Here you go. My pleasure.
Jeffrey.
Yes.
I'm doing a presentation during period 8, so I'm going to have to end it hopefully in the first 7, okay? No, it's fine. No, I mean, I don't, he has the answer. There could be a bunch of questions, or I'm just I ask him to fly. If somebody doesn't ask me a question soon, I'm moving. No, it's perfect. No, this is awesome. Yeah, it's awesome. Oh, well, we really.
Chick-fil-A more often.
They gave me morning ones though, so they're trying to sell their business. Can you pass me more cards? Wait, do I get one of these? Thank you guys for coming. Here you go. Here you go. Here you go. Here you go. Yo, stop, bro. You know what I do? I go to sleep early on purpose so we can wake me up.
Who was sitting next to you? She's got it, right? Because you keep making noise, and I'm like. The funniest thing is when we both.
Is it good, guys?
Got mad dark. It was definitely the team.
That's why they're so busy.
Oh, Claire's gone if you want. Whatever works. Right? Where do we even get these? I bought my desk chair only in case we're by itself. I'm like, cheap one? They pay like $10. Did you ever use it? It's good.
Tesoro.
Yeah, yeah. I've done both, like buying and selling, and it's like especially like good stuff because most of it's like brand new.
Hey guys, we're gonna be starting in 5 minutes. Sorry, that was loud.
Jeff, you can start as soon as you want because I have to go at 12:15. It's up to you. to you. You run the show. It's up to you. Huh? I didn't realize they really moved. It's been a day. Jordan, I haven't taught 3 periods in a row in a long time. I did the 2, 3, 4 in the library.
Right.
5, 6, 7 here. I gotta go back there 8, 9.
Reminds you of the old days, huh?
I don't know if I would have liked the schedule 2, 3, 4, 8, 9 though. Teaching 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and then 8th and 9th.
You know what it is? Is that break is bad. Like,
Too long.
yeah.
Too long. Yeah, that's a lot of common questions like campus. But they told us actually, which is really important, that their Google Docs doesn't work offline. I mean, it's got to work offline. When you're on the internet, when they say it doesn't work, there's no offline editing. You know, that's a problem. The active email function. You brought up about a English basics class. That's not a bad idea. Do we have?
No, I mean, so I was talking to Mercedes about
Well, you know what? I met with 90 kids and rather than 65 rules. I know it's difficult. And you know it also if you learn language reasoning. You can't stop it. They got to be reading when they get home. They got to, every night. Some of them may have difficult, but, in my quest to be bilingual, Google Translate really isn't good. Teach you to use Google Translate, the student doesn't know what country Probably something close to it.
I've heard it before though. One of the biggest challenges.
All right, guys. Can panelists please make their way to the stage? We're going to try and run through these questions. We're on, yeah. So we're 20 and 21 on deck. So we're going to have a working meeting. So we're just going to eat.
It's interesting you say that because, like, some people believe that math is easy because it's not a big language, you know? Ready?
Okay, 20 can ask their question and 21 can come up on deck. Yeah. Okay, guys, it's time. We fed you. Now it's time. Gather your thoughts.
Hi, I'm Marilyn Ortiz. I'm the vice president of my class. And I have two questions of my own before I ask that question. One of them is, how are the teachers going to improve? Well, are the teachers going to improve their communication to each other? And if so, how? Because like Misha said earlier this year, he tried to get a club opening and one of the teachers denied it, saying that it wasn't worth the try. And I just feel like you teachers don't communicate as a whole, understanding that you guys respond to differently to all the teachers. And I don't understand why when some students want to change, they have to go above and beyond to make that change. Rather than just having to talk to one teacher, you would have to talk to someone above their standings.
Yeah, so I think it's very important for all students to be heard. And, I'm not sure exactly whom, we were talking about, but, I believe that there are many, if not most staff members that are receptive to students. And if you don't feel that you are heard in the right way, I would seek another staff member. Or, like I tell all the students, my door is always open. To support them. And I know I could say the same for the administrative team.
Right.
Sure. So also, also to address that, I mean, we like you guys, and generally we like each other too, and we do talk, but I understand the concern, but you said something that caught my attention. It was, what's being done by us to make sure that you guys are good. And I think what this is all about is, it's time to face the reality of the world, and the world is a harsh place. And I always tell my students, nobody's going to advocate for you better than you can. So, it's not like elementary school anymore where, you expect your parents, your teachers, all these people to do everything for you. When you see a problem, when you have a solution, when you have an idea, be the one that is the change. Be the one that goes and gets it. And if somebody tells you no, don't take no for an answer. And I understand, too, there's a chain of command with us also. Like, you guys have to go through us. We have to go through our bosses. They have to go through their bosses all the way to the school board. But you can be a part of that. So if you don't like something, don't give up. Continue to talk to the people. If somebody tells you no, go to the next person, go to a board meeting. You have a right to do that as somebody who goes to the school, as a taxpayer in the community. But in life, don't expect that, I have a problem, I'm going to have to wait for somebody to fix it for me. You have to be your own advocate. And unfortunately, that's how it is. But I would encourage you to do that, and it's a great lesson.
Right, but I
And
feel
I'll say
like
just one more thing. You can come to anybody at this table for help at any time.
Yeah, but I feel like I'm saying, like, I was more of asking for the students who don't really want to speak up because they don't have, like, the effort or the energy, or they just don't feel like speaking to someone, like, hi, or, like, a student could go to their guidance counselor, they do nothing, so then the guidance counselor recommend, like, these things, so then that student would, like, be told to go to the principal or something. What if they don't want to? That's why they went to the guidance counselor. Like, there's some students that just won't make the extra effort and step to do so. So I feel like that's why I was asking, like, more of, so what are you going to do for those students who don't want to do that?
So I feel you on that. However, what you're talking about is personal responsibility, and personal responsibility lies with you guys. So if you're saying that somebody doesn't want to go above and beyond, we can't make someone want to go above and beyond. What we can do is make places feel safe enough that you guys want to come and speak with us, right? That's our responsibility, so that you guys feel comfortable enough to come and speak to us. But as far as taking no for an answer, like, you know, if you have to go to someone else, sometimes you might have to. But as far as, you know, wanting to advocate, that's something that has to come from within.
Right. Another one of my questions, like, I was just curious about, is why are students' parents who don't attend this school, who are going to St. John's, St. Anthony's, and, like, all of the private schools, why are their parents allowed to vote for our school board and, like, our, like, school if they're not even attending it and they don't know what's going on within?
It's really their right as a member of the community. You know, they have the right to vote, you know, for anything that happens with the school.
But if their student isn't attending the school, then how
Yeah,
is it their right?
They're still paying taxes towards the school system.
Right. Okay, anyways, this actual...
Marilyn, so just to clarify that. So your parents and the parents of a private school student pay the same amount of taxes to the school district. Now, what they depend on is, so they depend on this school district for textbooks, I believe, like IEP, like coverage, things like that, as well as school buses. So the school in return gives their students that because they pay taxes. So they're fully able to even run for the board if they wanted to because they pay taxes. So, and that's like, I mean, I think it's pretty fair as a student. So guys, can we just keep it to scripted questions as well? Just the ones that students have posed? Thank you.
Anyways, block scheduling has its pros and cons, but what if the lesson or subject matter is not engaging for a block period? Wouldn't that just promote students to give up or pay less attention? From a student, I don't know who.
Okay, so we know students learn best when content is engaging and relevant. And right now we're in the process of training teachers, you know, just today for 3 periods, and actually every other day for the next couple of months. We're having teaching skills to assist teachers in the classroom for next year. And there's also other training that they are going to be attending to best come up with a plan to develop engaging lesson. Because like I said, we know when content is relevant and engaging, students do better, and that longer duration of time, you know, will be okay for them.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. My name is Iris Guevara. I'm vice president of the Hispanic Club, and many foreign students are lost in the educational system in the United States. Due to this, they miss opportunities that will further help them in the future. These can be scholarships, college trips, and AP classes. How would you address this issue?
Can you repeat the first part of the question, please?
Many foreign students are lost in the educational system in the United States. Due to this, they miss opportunities that will further help them in the future. This can be scholarships, college trips, and AP classes. How would you address this issue?
So when you say lost in the education process, what do you mean?
They don't know exactly how the credits works because it's different in their countries.
Thank you. Yeah, so I'm sure that a lot of, one of the issues related to that problem is that just a lack of knowledge that a lot of the, you know, students that didn't grow up here have. They're not aware of things like AP classes or scholarships, or when there's field trips to colleges. A lot of times they can't hear the announcements, or you know, so to resolve that, just I would say something like the Latino club or the Hispanic club can get involved in maybe making it a mission of theirs to, you know, make sure that all the E&L students are kept aware of all their different opportunities and the stuff they might be missing out on. Someone like you that knows all the stuff that they're missing out on can step up and help them understand, right? Like you can maybe go to classes and talk about different scholarship opportunities, like AP classes. A lot of the 10th graders and 11th graders might not even know that that's an option. So definitely on both sides, students and administration and teachers can do things to further educate the L's.
Thank you.
Anybody else want to say anything?
I'm going to say also we're in the process of getting different TVs to put up around the building, and I think that'll also help with notifying all students of what's going on. I don't want you guys to think I'm being rude. This is going to be my last question, then I have to go and do another presentation for period 8 that I need to prepare for. Okay? So go ahead.
Okay, hello. My name is Karen Franklin. I'm president of the Jazz Band. This question is not necessarily going to pertain to me as I am a senior, but I do have a younger relative coming up into the high school next year. How is block scheduling going to impact the graduation rate of the class of 2021 and beyond, since there will be 4 period days instead of 9?
So it will not affect students graduating from high school. So when you have the 4-day, it's 4 days, but it's rotating. So you have day 1 and day 3, and then you have day 2 and day 4. So the students are going to be able to take the same amount of classes. In fact, we're also going to have the seminar period, which will help the students, hopefully, because during that time, they're really going to be able to get, you know, hopefully the help that they need to do better in their classes. In terms of the lab classes, those classes will meet 3 out of the 4 days. And you're really going to get a lot of more instruction because there's less transition time. There's less, the class isn't starting 5 times a week, it's only starting twice a week. So there's going to be a lot of time savings. So I think it's really going to be a positive change.
Okay, and follow-up, how will the block scheduling affect classes that are half-year credit, like health?
I'm not going to say exactly, you know, I believe that the half-year class will still be half-year. But that's something that I would have to speak to Mr. Ply about, Mr. Sucko, okay?
Okay, thank you.
All right. Guys, I want to thank you for everything you guys have done, and Jeffrey for organizing everything. This was a great experience, and I can't wait to do it again next year, okay? Thank you.
Okay, so we have a little bit of time until the summit is over and 8th period begins. So what I think we should use the remaining time now for is to kind of open up the floor with, you know, again, you have to understand this was a good way to get out the concerns that you guys have, but it can't end here. If you walk out of here and that's the end of it, then when we do this again next year, it's going to be the same thing. So let's use the last few minutes that we have to brainstorm, as Mr. Playa talked about, solutions. Obviously, we can't fix all these things. Some of them we can't do anything with. A lot of them, I'm sure there are things that can be done and addressed. How are you going to do that? What can be done? What are some ideas? What are some ways you can get involved? So do we want to take the mic and pass it around maybe, or?
Yeah, they can
just
step
come
up
up.
to
If
the
you want, okay, if you have, we'll just go one at a time. If you have something you'd like to say, you can just come up to the podium and address the panel.
Also, any like edits or things that we could do better next year, or you guys could do better next year for the summit if we do it again if you guys do it again next year. Any questions, comments, concerns? Open mic. Okay.
Hi, my name is Sabitha. I'm the captain of the varsity volleyball team. My question also pertains to this person's question. This person is David Meza. He said students are concerned that ISS is not an effective form of discipline. It does not discourage repeat offenders, and it causes students to miss more class time. In addition, many students are not provided with their required work. And I would like to follow up on a question like that because I've sat on my bus like on the way home and I've heard multiple students like, oh, I had ISS today, like it was so easy, like yo, I might get it again. So what can you what so what so what will you guys do? Well, I was hoping Mr. Plyer was here. Because honestly, like I feel like ISS or detention is also not effective because students just sit there and do nothing while they're missing important class time.
Yeah, I mean, in other districts, if you go and visit their ISS rooms, you will notice that there's no sleeping, there's no phones. So it's an actual punishment, right? I remember asking a different school district when I saw signs, I'm like, there's no phones or sleeping? They looked at me like I was crazy because I was used to Amityville. Now, there's a bunch of different reasons that it's difficult to control the ISS in this school, and you know, I could probably get in trouble for speaking my mind about it, so I'm not gonna. But but like, you know, we need security guards. My high school was crazy too. My high school was held together by the security guards because they would yoke kids up. They would hem them up if they talked back to them. Here, you touch a kid, they start crying. You know,
Yes.
like, cause they like, I know my rights. You can do this. Like, in my school, if you had a cell phone in your hand, ISS, they'd get smacked out of your hand. Like, we can't do that to you.
Please.
The only thing we could do to you is give you more ISS. And
That's
because
not
you're not
effective.
listening in ISS,
Oh,
right? The people that need to, you know, I don't know.
Also,
the parents.
It's right. So I agree with you. I'm gonna agree with you that I don't think it's an effective form of discipline either. I push into ISS every day, third period, to see who's up there. I get an email every day that lets me know who's there, and then I go up and then I torture the people that are there for the 40 minutes that I'm in there. On top of the fact that that room is super hot, so that's probably another downside to it. But the reality is that there are only so many ways to discipline, right? So what's the alternative?
So actually, I think that's the key right there. A lot of us would probably agree with you, some on the record, some off. I'll go on the record and say I totally agree with you. But then the question becomes, what would you like to see? Because the answer can't be don't discipline people. If you can't enforce your rules, then your rules are a joke. And we know that, you know, sometimes you need structure and rules in order to be successful here. So I'll open it up to you guys because I don't know the answer, but I agree with the problem. So what is the solution? What do you guys think should be done to have appropriate discipline, but at the same time not hurt the student from getting the class time?
Yeah, if the students are disciplined, if we have avenues to discipline the students, everyone else is learning better, right? Years ago here, they had, my high school called it pass room, but what did you guys call it? Where, no, it wasn't a sweep room. It was, there was a word for it. No, it was like 10, 15 years ago. There was a room where if, yeah, if there's a student that's misbehaving in the hallway or in a classroom, you just sent them to this room. They went there for that period. The security guard would escort them to the room, and they would just be out of your hair. Like, so it was very easy for teachers to maintain like a peaceful, healthy learning environment. So discipline is key. I mean, the ISS, if ISS was stricter with no phones and no sleeping, and it was a punishment that kids didn't want to go to, then kids wouldn't be cutting detention. They wouldn't be misbehaving in class. So fixing that problem would change things drastically, just fixing that one problem. So it's worth it, in my opinion.
It's OSS too, right? Like, you did something wrong, now you don't get to go to school, which you didn't really want to go to anyway, right? So, yeah, so I think in general, suspension is the issue, but again, what's the solution? Hard labor? Yeah. Could wash all of the faculty's cars.
Like, if the kid has his phone out, you say, put the phone away in ISS, and if they don't after that one time, they can call the parents pick them up. They leave work to come pick them up at school.
In the other school that I work at, that's what happens. If you don't give up your phone, you go home. Like, there's no question about it. Anybody who sees me in my office knows that you can't have your phone in your hand. ago, and they would literally in ISS you were in a cubicle, and you could not do anything but your work for the whole 8 periods. So.
Okay, so we're about to go into 8th period, so 7th period is about to end. So just some closing statements. I know that a portion of this summit could not really continue without an administrator here. Unfortunately, that had to happen because of scheduling conflicts. Now, what we can do is that there were some unanswered questions. I'm going to sit down with Mr. Playa and possibly Dr. Kelly to see if we can just get those questions addressed, maybe like just get like maybe a packet and send it to like class group chats and things like that of the answer to the questions that were not addressed at the summit. I would invite the panel of students to come. So yeah, thank you guys for attending.
Thank you so
See you
much.
guys next
Appreciate
year.
it. Remember, don't let it end here. Keep it going. Otherwise, it's for nothing.
I was just playing everything I said.
Yeah, go ahead. Guys, please take some sodas and waters, not the mac and cheese.